Hi, my name is Deanna Fong, and I'm the literary editor at the Capilano Review. And I'm so incredibly grateful to be in your company tonight. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful evening here in Vancouver. And hi to everybody who's joining us on the live stream. I think among them, my mom and brother in Campbell River. So hi, Mom. Hi, Justin. And also did want to say, one dear friend of ours, Carol Itter, is opening her show tonight at the Belkin Gallery. Her show, Only When I'm Hauling Water, Do I Wonder If I'm Getting Any Stronger? So in the spirit of this series, I just wanted to send some love her way tonight. And even though we're sort of physically separated across Vancouver, we're all a part of the same heart's geography, to borrow a term from Roy Kiyuka. We're gathered here tonight on the unceded ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, nations who have inhabited this land since time immemorial, and whose stewardship has made it possible for us to live and gather here at all. As an organization primarily run by settlers, we'd also like to call attention to the indigenous name Capilano, an important hereditary title often anglicized as Capilano that has been used without acknowledgement in the journal's title since its founding in 1972. If you're interested in learning more about the history of this name, we invite you to read the feature essay on the name Capilano on our website, thecapilanoReview.com. For those of you with us tonight who may be unfamiliar with the Capilano Review, TCR is a BC-based nonprofit literary and visual arts journal that is published 3 times a year from our offices in the Woodward's Heritage Building in downtown Vancouver. Originally founded by Pierre Coupé at Capilano College in 1972, TCR has been independent since 2015 with the support of a robust community of writers, artists, and readers. Our mandate continues to be the presentation of experimental writing and visual art, often in dialogue and often side by side. If you'd like to learn more about our publication and the work that we do, we invite you to come speak with us after the event. Our art editor, Jacqueline Ross, will be at the merch table, where you can also pick up a copy of our newest issue, as well as books by Tawhida Tanya Evanson. And also for sale are our 3 very special 50th anniversary glossary issues, which feature work by Junie Désil, who's reading tonight, and other back issues, tote bags, art editions, and other merchandise. If you enjoy the event tonight, we'd like to encourage you to consider purchasing a $35 subscription to the Capilano Review so that we can continue to publish, program, and promote art and writing in this city and across Canada. A 1-year subscription will get you 3 print issues a year, beginning with the most recent issue on the theme of interventions in the archive. Inventions and interventions. It's got that 90s parenthetical thing going on. Continuing with our forthcoming fall 2023 anti-monuments issue and our winter 2024 open issue after that. Subscriptions are crucial to small independent magazines like ours and ensure the vitality of the network of writers and artists that assemble in the pages of our journal. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to the Western Front for being ongoing generous collaborators on this series, especially Susan Gibb and Kiel Torres, who co-organized the series with myself and arts editor Jacqueline Ross, technician Ben Wilson, videographer Daniel, and photographer Dennis. Thanks for inviting us into this space and bringing this program to a wider audience across Canada. And we'd also like to thank the Kootenai School of Writing for their generous donation that helped support this program. Christian Vistan, our artist in residence for this reading series, is also here in the audience with us tonight. Christian has been producing the backgrounds for each of our monthly reading events, adding a visual dimension to our practices of reading and listening. The image you see tonight was inspired by the heat and sweat here in the Lux Hall at our last reading event in July. And if you were here, it was a wet one. It was a hot one. It reflects on body sweat and how it imprints on the seats and walls, reflecting both effort, exertion, and moments of stillness and rest. This image by Christian shows the sweaty backs of some of their recent paintings. Thank you, Christian. So some quick housekeeping before we get on with the evening. Each of our 3 readers tonight will be presenting for about 20 minutes with no intermission. We're doing our best to keep everyone safe at this event, so we strongly encourage the use of masks when not eating or drinking. An all-gender washroom is available on this floor just outside the hall, and 2 additional washrooms are located downstairs in the foyer. We acknowledge that this physical space is not currently wheelchair accessible, so to everyone currently attending by live stream, thank you for being patient with us while we continue to work through the necessary steps to make a large-scale upgrade to this historic building a reality. And with that, I will introduce our first reader tonight, Junie Désil. In her book of poems, Eat Salt, Gaze at the Ocean, Junie Désil writes, "How do you write about something that you carry but don't know? Her work responds to this question with focused attention on the spaces and silences that tether words, insisting that the unsaid carries equal weight in bearing witness to collective displacement, trauma, and aftermath. Junie Désil is a poet born of immigrant Haitian parents on the traditional territories of the Kanien'kehá and the island known as Tiohtià, Montréal, and raised in Treaty 1 territory in Winnipeg. Junie's debut poetry collection, Eat Salt, Gaze at the Ocean, which is from TalonBooks, was a finalist for the Dorothy Livesay Poetry Prize. Junie currently lives on the traditional territories of the Homalco, Tla'amin, and Klahoose, where she is currently working on a forthcoming poetry collection. Here's Junie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me for this lovely event. I'm trying to get used to this podium. I like them higher. Okay, so I'll get right into it. Thank you, Deanna, for the lovely introduction. It's always interesting to hear how people talk about your collection, because it always sounds so much fancier than how I feel about my collection. In fact, I was just saying to someone that I'm bored of reading it. So today I'll be reading from, yes, my debut collection. And I do have a forthcoming collection when I get to it and the creative mess stops. And that forthcoming collection is called Allostatic Load. So I'll read from that after reading from here. And in this collection, nothing is titled, so there are no titles as I read from them. Here. It's not the same ocean, I know. But ocean is ocean, and it's salty. You still have to watery squint your eyes when the sun, blazing, scorches the surface, shimmers the horizon, shifts. It's still the same sound, pattern of the recede. Come in, recede further, come in again. The sound of pressure builds, crashes, pounds, the tug and insistent pull when you're in tune with the ocean. Sink toes, this land borrowed far from another, this constant, familiar uneasiness. How to write about what you don't know. Strange inheritance one carries. Everyday code understandable if born of Haitian soil, submerged in salt sea, bracing rivers and falls. I start with origins. I was not here. I'm not there. Rather, the line from here, today, tethers collective trauma, umbilical, centuries old. Those bones a bridge over oceans, triangulated passages. I asked Mother about zombies, the back home kind. She won't speak except to start and stop, words caught in her throat. I ask Father. I am a man of God, he says. Don't pay attention to such things. Silence. So I ask books from the library, keep them from touching other books or caressed by the same night wind against my back. I ask for help. Guidance to write these words, offer a prayer, remembering, give thanks before asking favors. Zombification process, dezombification, Haitian zombie. I asked the library and the internet vague and also specific questions, at least 11 different ways. I used air quotes, asterisks, that sign that I don't know what it's called still. I tried zombie, Walking Dead, even comparative versus. Salt, ocean, eat, salt, reanimation. At night, the pile of library books stay outside my bedroom. René Depes, Hadriana in all my dreams, Wade Davis's Passage of Darkness, maybe the books with Veve drawings like stick and poke tattoos, their shapes, arrows draw down, the loas to language of gods I don't know. I don't want supernatural gifts. I jump at shadows. Words rattle about, stop their noise as the SkyTrain wheels screech around the bend. Luminous eye of the train blind my wide open ones. I wonder if I've accidentally summoned these gods to wake this husk, crack of the whip call. Our dead's lips sewed, black thread or wire, might not answer. Stuck. I ask for help. I read accounts, appropriated, reinvented white tales of zombies. Watch I Am Legend, 28 Days, World War Z, Night of the Living Dead, Shaun of the Dead, iZombie, Warm Bodies, Walking Dead, Santa Clarita Diet, my personal favorite, Dawn of the Dead, Now Mass Culture, Mass Consumption, Zombie, Disease vector, technology symbol for mindless labor, not quite slave labor, everyone for themselves zombie, sexual liberation taboo, zombie futurism, in which zombie has consumed the consumerist, escapist fantasy. When mother disappears into the crisp winter darkness to remember old white folks, zombie-like shuffle, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, fend off unwanted advances. He's old, he doesn't mean anything. While father sits, blue mercury idling, breath, fog, wait. They'll rummage in her bag to make sure no thing has been lifted. Theft is against company policy. Simultaneously ply her with stale, bland Christmas cake, charity, also against company policy. Triple shift, work nights during the day, cook and clean, no pay, between snatches, sleep. Petrified, I've absorbed fear somewhere, lullabies and kisses, stern admonishment on my deportment, how to be a good Black girl, between harried cooking instructions. Curious, anxious questions shooed away or responded to, I don't remember. Child sleep, late night crawl on my belly, snake-like, listen to adult conversations, hush-toned over back-home food, heavy, buttery, yellow Haitian cake, chased down with instant coffee and lait carnation, or sweet, thick, jewel red, green vodka syrup, or crémasse, creamy smooth, for guests only. How to write about zombies when you're a generation removed from the soil and several generations removed from Languinay, and colonial words crowd your mouth and still your tongue and sever the connection between land, language, and self, whitewash at best. How to write about these things that terrify and resolve into odd shapes at night and lurk in shadows of the smooth heart muscle, joints of bones, marrow, tip of fingers, and tongue. Just bone on bone, wary, grating questions. This is how to write about zombies. Silence met with silence, dread imbued in every cell, feverish search. Sometimes I write poems or stories masquerading as poems, so, I try to arrange them on the page so they look like poems, but they're really a story. So here's a story about dead men working sugar fields. They worked for the Haitian American Sugar Company, HASCO. HASCO, founded by Charles Steinem, John Christie, and Frank Corpay, August 5th, 1912, registered in Wilmington, Delaware, with a $5 million capital. In 1915, HASCO's operations under threat, anxieties over German business interests, and need to dominate and secure economic interests in Haiti, U.S. Marine invasion and occupation. 1918, HASCO increased need and demand, bodies to work the fields, more bodies, bonuses on wages as incentives, entire families register their bodies, more bodies to harvest sugarcane. Old man T. Joseph, his wife Croyance, bring bodies, more bodies to harvest bitter sugar. Anyway, those dead folks working the sugarcane fields like it's 1820, about that. Croyance felt sorry for them, all that work in the fields for Haskell and bland food. Took them to the market. It would be fun, she thought. She had already fed them unsalted boiled plantain and meat, bland food. They were zombies, after all. Single file, shuffled to the market, spied a vendor selling tablette, sweet peanut brittle. This would be nice, a treat. They ate the tablette, salted, reanimated. They leapt up, ran off toward their respective graves, reburying themselves, free to finally die. Another story, this one on origins. Africans being precious cargo but dispensable. To prevent them jumping off ship to their deaths, we're told a story of not reaching Guinea, home, or promised land, heaven. Punishment, eternal, mindless toil, the curse, zombie. Like current conditions, that hell is fresh. Still, heaven, homeward bound. Mother's celestial cane keeps her balance, holds her upright. The promise of gold-paved streets, 12 gates to that shining city, reward for not living and suffering earth. I think I will read one last one from here, or maybe two. They convince you that bringing a child into this world, cut out of your womb, severs bonds that might have been, had baby been pulled out of the canal. That hardness between mother and I is the result. What if I tell you the hardness grows, comes to be alongside your growing in the womb in preparation for our encounter in the world? Our womb water, wet black bodies have already been in peril, imperiled 1,000 lifetimes ago, 1,000 lifetimes ahead. The hardness that is glassy smooth shield, an heirloom forced on us. What if I tell you that preparation is a 500+ year tradition? The thing about hard exteriors I want to tell you. I want to tell you about shells. They're hard for protection. I want to tell you that nothing gets through that exterior, except sometimes those very same undead folks, the one who watch in fear out of the layers of tissue, fat, grist, her first. I was pulled, she, drug zombied, remembers 9 months preceding. It all comes down to knife slide, baby out, bloody and tiny, on a noon Sunday. She'll say she never laid first eyes on her breast. I was placed, everything throbbing. The next day, baby heavy, already burdened. Nothing gets through that exterior except that trauma-bonded love, hard. I want to tell you another thing about hard exteriors, how they form. Black bodies, amber-like, stone, absorb fossilized, hard, but not diamond hard. I'm going to read from Allostatic Load. So, just really quickly, allostatic load refers to the cumulative burden of chronic stress and life events, and typically shows off as cardiovascular disease, cancer, arthritis, metabolic syndrome, etc. And so even when accounting for socioeconomic factors and status, Black women had the highest allostatic load when compared to any other groups. Forecast calls for rain on end, incessant drip. Wet coldness seeps through exposed bits, wrists, ankles, or behind fogged glasses, reflects bright screen filled with the latest viral horrors, back braced, teeth clenched, pelvis squeezed. Red dots encircling white digits on various social media accounts, testament to ignored messages. I don't want to read performed horror, book-ended between images, curated aspirational perfection, hashtag no filter. On a good day, the dull ache in my lower back and pelvis, fatigued and brain fogged. On a particularly bad year-long stretch of racial injustice, extrajudicial killings, work microaggressions, general climate of anti-Blackness, my body betrays me, seizes, and won't get out of bed. The weather is bad out there. The weather is bad out there. The unceasing patter of rain erodes, dampness lodges, settles. Rain erodes, dampness lodges, settles, makes an awkward home in the joints, muscles, and inflamed tissues. Makes an awkward home in the joints, muscles, and inflamed tissues. An actual title, and I think I'm getting close. So this poem is called John Henry Lies Dead After Beating the Steam Drill. And this title comes from a painting of the same name by African-American painter Palmer Hayden. 1. He died, beating the steam drill that could only drill 9 feet, while he, with 2 hammers, 1 in each hand, drilled 14 feet. He died, but before he left the earthly plane, he was the fastest, strongest, most powerful man working the railroad, hammering metal rods into rocks in preparation for explosives. He died, man against machine, with a 10-pound hammer in each hand. Of exhaustion, physical and mental, he died to prove his worth, fighting against his replacement. 2. Not without struggle and not without a price. We have a term for high-effort coping, John Henryism, and it's not just named after the folk-tale John Henry I just told you about. John Henry Martin, no relation, vowed to beat the sharecropper system he was born into, taught himself to read and write, then freed himself and his children from that system. At 45, he borrowed money to pay for a 75-acre parcel, to pay down the loan, farming the land day and night, 7 days a week. And he took 5 years instead of 30 to pay that off. By his 50s, he had hypertension, arthritis, peptic ulcers so bad, 40% of his intestines were removed. 3. My father's guts were rotting as he held himself together, tried to hold his stomach together, sucking back Rolaids, Pepto-Bismol, and an aperitif, while Philip's milk of magnesia served as dessert as he hunched over the dining table. I often wonder about my father's amnesia. I remember his high-effort coping in the dining room that served as his study, white lab coat keeping him warm, the ulcers making his breath foul as he studied medical texts bookmarked by sheafs of perforated computer paper, the day's racist joke printed out and posted at the office where he worked at. Of the racial trauma he endured, he has no recollection, though his intestines kept the score. 4. That time, clots clawed their way up my leg to lodge themselves in my lungs. At work, when I log in My emails number in the 3 digits. Still catching up from my 4-day migraine, and previous to that, my 2-week working at home, catching up staycation, and previous to that, a number of breaks that have done nothing to bring my stress or workload down. I start the 20th to-do list that never gets shorter, and my heart begins its loud, erratic thumping. I casually admit to another woman that I read Goop. I know. What in the world can Gwyneth Paltrow tell me? And out of morbid, disconnected fascination, I read the health and wellness articles fantasizing about implementing some of the tips to lower my stress. Make room in your schedule for free time and activities that you truly love. Or start the day with a breakfast that helps manage blood sugar levels. My mornings start with a jolt as my iPhone screeches an alarm tone meant to get me out of bed immediately, with just enough time to get dressed and head out the door. So much for Goop. I think I've covered my time. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Junie. Thank you for sharing the new work with us. So our next reader, Isabella Wang, joined the pages of the Capilano Review in 2021 with fantastic interlingual poems from her work, The Choreography of Forgetting. These poems gathered and laid before us the figurative, associative, lateral, and palimpsest meanings embedded in Chinese words through a series of footnotes and numbered observations. These poems work in a mode that to me marks Isabella's larger poetics in the ways that they trace the intricate web of connections between language, languages, an observing subject, a feeling body, and the material world. Isabella is the author of the chapbook on Forgetting a Language from Baseline Press, and the full-length debut Pebble Swing from Nightwood Editions was shortlisted for the Dorothy Livesay Poetry Prize. Among other recognitions, she's been shortlisted for ARC's Poem of the Year contest, the Malahat Review's Far Horizons contest and Long Poem contest, and was the youngest writer to be shortlisted twice for the New Quarterly's Edna Stabler Essay Contest. Oh, this says that you're completing a double major in English and World Literature, but you completed it. Woo-woo! Has just started a master's degree in sociology at SFU. An editor on the Room Collective, she's also a youth mentor with Vancouver Poetry House, web coordinator with Poetry in Canada, and she directs her own nonprofit editing and mentorship program, 4827 Revise Revision Street. Here is Isabella.
Hello, Deanna. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Deanna. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. That was really, really sweet. And I mean, during my undergrad, I was working with spoken web, and so I got to go into the SFU special collections and look at the cassette tapes of BC poets. And, you know, I was able to listen to so many of them, like Fred Waugh and Daphne Marlett from the 1960s, reading here. And it's actually my first time being in here, and so it's just amazing. I am so grateful to be here, and with the start of school, it was such a nice surprise to see some of my friends in the audience, and also old friends I haven't seen in ages. So thank you for being here. If you're familiar with my work in the Capilano Review, it is a series of poems that kind of uses footnotes, numbered footnotes. And this is a new prose manuscript in progress, and it also kind of uses footnotes. It in part footnotes quotations from Roland Barthes' book, The Lover's Discourse, kind of to apply his figure of the romantic lover to different, more applications of love for that of a patient in the medical system, though it also has lots of romantic love in there. And the other document that I footnote is my own medical documents. And so The project is called Subscript: Annotating Lawn Illness. And I will just start here. Subscript. None of my original voice appears in the body of this text about my body. That is because this text is composed of many texts in the medical system that others have written on me. In these spaces, I am too tired to be poet, writer, storyteller, but I try to tell the story of my symptoms and who I am in a compelling way. Some of the words I say are written down, some descriptions kept and edited. In the drafts, this is all handwritten, the rest is typed down. The drafts of my experiences that I have curated going into the appointments are not the versions that is ultimately authorized and submitted. I rely on the edits of medical shorthand to advocate for me. If all goes well, nothing concrete remains of the time that I as a body have spent here. I arrive on time and leave from my appointments, and sometimes leave behind a vial or piece of a part of this body that will continue telling a story on my behalf without me. Barthes writes, quote, "Every contact for the lover raises the question of an answer. The skin is asked to reply," end quote. There are a lot of questions under my skin awaiting answers. Perhaps that is why I am behind a blue curtain, why my shoes and underwear are stowed in a blue garbage bag underneath the blue recliner bed, and I am feeling very cold, too revealed. Perhaps blue is the answer. Perhaps my mass is blue, and that this is the beginning of a relationship I must learn to love with a system that is humongous, and with eyes and without eyes at the same time, and only sometimes with a heart, that has and is and will put a frame around my most vulnerable, unfiltered, tender portraits. The hospital at 7 a.m. is made up of many blue mornings and blue daylight, blue blankets, blue veins, tired ghosts blinking under sterile blue scrubs and sterile blue gowns. I will never forget this day, December 12th, 2021. And perhaps because somewhere in my early 20s, I still love this body, I do not want the answer or to wait for a reply. Quote, BCC VA, BC Cancer Vancouver Center, 600 West 10th Avenue, Vancouver, British Columbia, V5Z 4E6, document type, oncology medical consult, service date, time, February 2nd, 2022, 11:05, result status, authentic, verified. This place is aftermath. This place is metastasis and circular windows elbowing cement walls of a west-facing building. It has a significant amount of light coming in on every floor. Inside, we are once most likely in need of a few windows of light. Some of our bodies have stopped making the necessary chemicals that regulate and interpret temperature. We are cold, in need of sunlight for warmth. But for the most part, our bodies need light, that's all. This painting I love, entitled Avenue, hangs on the 5th floor of the building where I get my CT scans at 3, then 4, then 6-month intervals. It's a landscape depicting elevations of red, crimson, and gold across some fluid stratas of mountain, veins taking over the receding green of their valleys. The mountains have endured metasomatic changes. Conscious or not, eco-poets might argue. At a certain point, medical science's term metastasis confronts this process wherein the static and stable regulatory mechanisms in the body undergo paces of meta or rapid change. Unlike metasomatism, metastasis suggests confinement within the parameters of the disease itself. A malignant cell starts out nanoscopic, invisible, confined to its host region. It starts out as a parasympathetic process, meaning you can be sick and not know that you're sick at all. Eventually, every patient stepping into the door of this building will experience an ordeal akin to the geologic permutations that take place in the lifespan of a mountain or rock. In metasomatism, changes take place in an entire rock's disposition because some of its chemical features are added or removed. Dilating, the rock of a tumorous growth transcends into a hard, somatic, and conscious felt reality, no longer confined, no longer invisible. The tissues, fat, bloodstream, it all feel the crimson coursing through the gold and red topography of their beings. Nothing's the same afterward. The whole body's affected. On this avenue of Broadway, I've carpooled, rode my first bus in grade 5, been hit with hail, cried under lamplit rain. I have purchased an umbrella, organic food, repaired a bike, met my friends for decade-long reunions. I have moved many times since, isolated, steering further from this strip of the city during my undergrad, though years later again, my reunion and reintegration with Broadway's West 10th Avenue is storied by my return as a patient. Lauren Fournier writes, "The writer's memory of their lived experience is one material among others. I am more than the stack of documents sent to me upon request. I am more than the 45-minute YouTube video demonstrating a live left radical nephrectomy for surgical med students. The video was entitled, How to Perform a Left Radical Nephrectomy. Thereupon, I did not learn how to perform a left radical nephrectomy. And yet, over the course of sickness, anesthesia, treatment, and cognitive inhibitions distilling a bumpy recovery and aftermath, these references feel more autocomplete than I. They are body for the ghost of my own amnesiac recollections. I shall give my verified account now." Barthes writes, "The necessity for this book is to be found in the following consideration, that the lover's discourse is today of an extreme solitude. This discourse is spoken perhaps by thousands of subjects, but warranted by no one." Unquote. For now, I am weak. I've not been well for 3 weeks. I tell people I'm a writer for the durations of the year when I am not a patient, when energy spent on recovery obscures any embrace of life's meaningful things like gooey whiteout. There's dichotomy between the body I have to inhabit and the body I love inhabiting. I read Barthes and make a lover's discourse around medication and anatomies of the body. Hope is my primary organ, a muscle keeping me alive while my heart reluctantly negotiates a chamber for the extreme solitude of this illness. Hope says, this body will pass. Others who speak of their medical crises in intervals of discourse, different from communication with loved ones. The beloveds who remain in our lives out of love for us despite the pain of staying, despite also being affected by the realities of this diagnosis that creates collective exhaustion. Dark circles under eyes, hoarse voice, a confirmation of my surgical day as the first night they'll get healthy sleep. The beloveds breathe in concern, like secondhand smoke every time a cancer cell exhales, metastasizing beyond the fleshy circumference of sick's body and into the margins of healthy ones. We dream of releasing them from this illness more than we want it for ourselves. Anne Boyer is one I speak of and discourse alongside, who suggests that, quote, if you begin to accept your illness, or even to love it, you worry that you might want to keep it around, end quote. In other words, the people we want to keep around will also have to accept even love variations of necrotic gene expression written in/all over us. This is one version of love, a love warranted by no one. No one should have to endure. Barthes writes, tenderness, return of rhythm, riti, disappearance of nirvana, end quote. Oxford English Dictionary, tender, pronounced tender. 1. To show gentleness, concern, or sympathy. Mornings, I gently lift the hem of my shirt to my ribs and concern myself with changing silhouettes of my 5 incision scars. 4 of them were made by robotic arms. This lump is alive, writes Susan Sontag, a fetus with its own will. The faint striation where I gave birth to my cancerous kidney, my surgeon hand-cut the ridge himself. His scalpel has transformed the vacant plot of my belly into a valley with topographical markings, memories of a bodily earthquake that once took place there, opening before recovering into one-stitched, bumpy plain. I am trying to show myself the same tenderness that I extend to others. My ghost is many persons. 2. Of a body to be sensitive to pain. In mathematical terms, subspace is a span or area of a space within a greater space. With enough coordinates, sections of any shape, depth, and circumference can be explained relative to the numerical specifications of the space containing it. With enough trembling and noise, any space, organ, mitochondria within my body can be sliced vertically, horizontally, by thickness. Imaging bisects the n quantities of subspaces in my landscape, which only the radiologist experienced to tread. You will feel a small poke in your arm, I am told. The rest is a painless procedure. The contrast dye IV leaves me particularly tender. When the technician asks me if I am cold and wanting a blanket, I tell him that my mind is already blanking it. He laughs so hard and offers me a job as the BC Cancer Imaging Department's reciting comedian. He does not notice my pain, my nervousness, the feeling of weary exhaustion from being summoned for another scan after repeating it many times. Humor obstructs anyone's attempts to see through me during these appointments. Within healthcare's confines, I stay desensitized to pain because I refuse to grow receptive to the possibility of being hurt by arbitrary systems. Stand vulnerable, shapeless before schemas. 3. Of a ship leaning readily inclined to roll in response to the wind. There is, of course, another subspace, the embodied one. Days when my sails have gone and I don't notice the ocean. Recovery becomes an hourless, calendarless, directionless container. I leave the door unlocked, ready to accept anyone who has made the time for a visit, any offer of physical comfort. I am surprised by my own openness, my own vulnerability, my defeat. With the right people, I feel safe to make translucent all of those impossible feelings I've managed to conceal from the MRI, the CT machine. A space is made where we can hold each other, figuratively and literally. Rules are suspended, etiquette tossed. We make humor out of the worst circumstances, express love toward all things dark, grotesque, morbid. I beg my friends to take me for wild nights out, experiment by the edges of danger. I long to try things I never desired before getting sick. This keeps my ship floating. This is a grieving person's carnivalesque. I'm gonna check time here. Almost done. 2 more. Barthes writes, the world is full without me, as in nausea. The world plays at living behind a glass partition. The world is in an aquarium. I see everything close up and yet cut off, made of some other substance. I keep falling outside myself without dizziness, without blur, into precision, as if I were drugged. Sartre's novel that Barthes was referring to was initially published under Melancholia. For the sake of completing a biography of an 18th century French figure, the protagonist isolates himself from the fullness of friends and city life. The work he ends up completing instead makes up the contents of Nausea, a diary tracking his increased dissociation from the corporeal world as his inner conceived sense of his outer surroundings become more distinct. Isolation was pointless. If the novel is a fable of an individual with the city in his bones, is it himself or that inner city's longing to be made in touch once more with that urban pulse that for decades has been responsible for supplying meaning and occupation to the desiring modern human? Like Karen Engel writes, cities are not simply external entities defined by physical structure and population size. They extend beyond themselves. They invade us as we invade them. Is nausea always interchangeable with melancholia? I have melancholia, I might say to my GP. With chronic illness, the outcome won't be any different than if I were to say I feel nauseated. Sometimes, borders between triage and care at hospitals are glass partitioned. One side, patients arrive in lines at intake. They occupy a common space of germs, headache, pain, coughing, family members, and the heaviness of waiting, regardless of illness's severity. The patient-like arrive as though parking at the skyline of some town, expecting, hoping that this visit would just be a drive-through to another horizon. Their pressing responsibilities and jobs are relieved by the newfound urgency of their symptoms. No one arrives at the hospital expecting never to leave. Even the already diagnosed with life-threatening conditions are determined to make this visit not a permanently confining one, to think that treatment will work, that whatever operation or new drug dished into veins will offer them their highway exit out. So this ghost town won't hear their last breaths lingering. I get senses of the substances of the outside world from my time spent in plastic hospital recliners. It's because everyone is struggling, and sickness does not discriminate against the poor, the homeless, the incarcerated, the mentally ill, at least not on its own. Nor do the bracelets, secured snugly on wrists, impossible to remove when you're taken in. It's because waiting is so long that there are so many of us with bracelets that stories emerge out of the substance of bleach, medicine, sterilized gowns. We spend so long in this foreign place that everyone brings a fragment of the outer city with them, the desperate fragments that invade us and impinge on the aspects of their lives bringing them there, hoping that by explaining, nurses and physicians will not only treat their bodies, but also fix their lives. In the end, some leave with neither improvement. Some arrive anticipating a quick fix, but receive diagnosis that the city they brought to the glassed-off frontiers of these doors will be indefinitely restructured by the time they step out again. Last short one. Barthes writes, apparently everyone knows the story of the two halves trying to join themselves back together. I am not a perpetual planner. I run a committee for the orphanage of ghosts waiting to be adopted by the selves we once possessed. We feed each other saltwater taffy stretched vulnerable without breaking, prepare collectively for changes that happen, will happen, is happening. Recovery is like this. There are those of us nearing 5 years, those of us who can't give up on the healthy, those of us in love, those of us afraid to love for the sake of the healthy, those of us undiagnosed, those of us biopsied, those of us moved to palliative care, those of us with hours left on morphine. This is a long illness that no one wishes to get. Beside a perfectly good healthcare system you've considered pretty reliable until you get an illness like this. Not every one of us wants a pin, a bracelet, a cancer-free tattoo. There are some of us who wants one, but are informed at the start of an appointment that such milestones are no longer possible. Our ribbons come in many different colors to signify all the different places in our bodies that might one day be sick. Our illnesses leave us tired. That's a common symptom. Mitosis is the process at the equator where a day chromosomes into 2 days, and tomorrow is supposed to look identical. Meanwhile, I divide my body, abandon recipes of DNA, let lake swallow me in its green. This is one definition of consent. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Isabella. I'm lingering on tenderness, and I want to take that with me tonight. We've been beyond grateful to host Tanya Evanson as our 2023 writer-in-residence this past week. On Tuesday, she led us in a generative free verse writing workshop titled Elixir of Life, where we reflected on our personal, collective, spiritual, and political connections to water through free writing. To participate to me felt like stretching a tight muscle that has sat stiff and unmoving for much too long, or perhaps more fittingly to the theme, quenching a long, deep thirst with a revitalizing drink of water. I first saw Tanya perform alongside Kai Kello, who's here tonight, hi Kai, and Jason Sharp in the group Franz when they opened for the inimitable Saul Williams in Montreal in 2019. I was blown away by that feat or feast of voice, rhythm, patterning, and vibration. And I was also 7 months pregnant with my daughter at the time, and she was pretty blown away too. I could feel her like kicking up a storm. And I'm amazed to tell you that to this day, I can recall lines from that performance verbatim in their specific breathless staccato invocation as perfectly as if I were hearing them aloud right now. This was an indelible performance and testament to what happens when we take seriously the role of sound in language. Tanya's poetry is a poetry that impresses on us deeply, body and soul. Tawhida Tanya Evanson is a poet, author, performer, producer, and ashik. Her poetry collections include Bothism and Nouveau Griot, and her debut novel, Book of Wings, won the 2022 CAM Blue Metropolis New Contribution Prize. The French auto-translation Livre Désil is forthcoming from Marchand de Feuilles in 2023. With a 25-year practice in spoken word and music, she performs internationally and has released several studio albums and video poems. She's the president of the Quebec Writers Federation and director of Mother Tongue Media, which produces inter-arts projects, including the upcoming Afrofuturist concert film, Sayano Sun Suite. Born and based in Tiohtià, Montreal, unceded Kanien'kehá territory, she moonlights as a whirling dervish. Here is Tawhida Tanya Evanson.
Who? Is that amplified? Are we on? Lovely. Good evening, everyone. Greetings. Salam. It's wonderful to be here. It's an honor to be here, to have been invited, to have been given space to express what's in the heart and in the mind, and to come back to Coast Salish, where I lived for about 10 years. So give thanks to the land which upholds us, the air which upholds us, the water which upholds us. We can't ever forget to give thanks, not take it for granted. You know, this land is full of blood. And this land is full of theft. You know, unceded is just a polite word for stolen. This land is full of children buried. Those of us who are guests on this land must remember to walk with respect, with gentleness, with kindness to each other. Let's look at each other when we walk. Let's greet each other when we walk on the street. I was missing that this time on this visit. Everybody looking down. Look up. Actually, when you pass someone looking down, you can whisper that. You can say, look up. They'll be like, what was that? But at least you'll have done something. So may the work that we do here today with the Western Front and Capilano Review and all of you and Isabella and Junie, may the work that we do be received and accepted by the first peoples of this land in the love and kindness and friendship in which it is undertaken. Dear friends, what a great title for an event. Wow. I'm going to share with you 4 pieces tonight. And these 4 pieces are from a film that I've been working on over the past year called Cyano Sun Suite. And it's a suite of 7 poems that begin at the cellular and end at the sun. And each piece goes through a scientific level of organization. So as we begin at the cellular and bacteria, and then we go up to plant systems and tissue systems, and then we go up to organisms and animals, and then community population, and then we're at the biosphere and the ecosphere, and then we're up in the solar system, and then we're at solar maximum. You know, the sun, she's going through her cycles too. So I'm going to share with you the first 4 pieces. This first piece is called Culture Starter. Who are we? We are the cleaners of the black guts. The Kickstarter culture, your black mother's milk, the funk and the wet nurse. Your first ever fungus, your neighbors since birth. The most beneficial underbelly of the entire ecosystem down here, critical mass invisible in the pipes, fighting pathogens and antigens with vinegar and bleach. We are more you than you, 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 we are more you than you. We that feel in your gut, the taste in your mouth, your stiff upper lip, the moist between your leg, the air around your lung, the skin off your back, the OG algae born of sun since 3 billion years now. Yeah, we that type of microbiome beneficium, we thicken everything. We global everywhere. We local every here. We glide and divide among the cyano-radical first. We predate oxygen. We destroyed the place and remade it, took anoxic earth and oxygenated it. We are the protectors, essentials to life. But you put we at risk, and we are more you than you. 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 We probiotic fighters like a protest on repeat. Who matter? Who medicine? Who matter? Who medicine? Who matter? Who medicine? Who matter? Who medicine? Who backbone? Who frontline? Intestine never tie, but who do die by means crude and unnecessary? And who knows if your medicine will even work? We cleaned up the entire biosphere for you. Now it's your turn to bloom. Live culture, culture alive, live culture. 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 We are more you than you. 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 Thank you for allowing me to do that. Tonight we heard poems about how racialized bodies experience the stress of living in these lands. And this is another such piece called Incision. Back in the 2014, the surgery, the silver, the scalpel slicing through the steel, the bloodline, the seeping down size, the white fat excised. The long raised scar back there that stays and pulses. The orange, the spray tan, the surgeon so rude. He mocked my mindful meditation during the awkward day surgery performed in the end by the green intern who practically begged to cut into me with that number 10 blade. The patient is face down as the man stab us in the back. The release, the enemy, the quickness of foreign extraction, the lumpy crimson mass pulled out the black body. Blue uniforms, beige walls laughing down. Get me out of here, I thought. Now. Indigo nurse shrouded my body afterwards and sent Muslim prayers in Hausa on her way out the operating room. Having been party to this sort of exorcism before. She said, Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. The salt and tall sweating, the skin a sieve surrounding slashed fascia. Hot colonial tissue having its way out like a bullet. A force punching through the rot, frothy, vaguely full of power. We scabbing over now. Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. Like the plants on the planet, we remember all those things we released when we thought we were immortal. It felt good at the time. Only reason, 'cause we didn't die. How we age, carry white, fat, loose adipose in shifts. Tectonic plates ready to seize and crush our roots and shoots. Capital walk changes, bare feet, once African light. Since they carved that piece out of me, feel heavy. I should be light. Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. Alaya, Abarakachika. This body of land does her thing. We got little to do with it. But tone, time, space, liberation, we got everything to do with it. And these liberation incisions are all ours. Alaya, abarakachika. Thank you. Did you know that there are 10 quintillion insects on planet Earth? 10 quintillion. Isn't that a cool word? Come on. 10 quintillion. It's like 10 with like 18 zeros after. It's pretty cool. It's an estimation, but we'll take it just for the word. Some words are sexy. It's true. We know that. I mean, either you're a writer or you're a lover of writers, or lover of writing and literature, so you know a sexy word when you hear it. 10 quintillion. So some insects are endemic or native to a region, and others are invasive species. Which one wins? It's kind of like the human being. We have the same war inside of us. On the one side, morality, we know it's right most of the time. And on the other side, we got this hungry animal that wants what it wants. Which one wins? 10 quintillion. Now, bloodsuckers don't barter, only hierarchy or tiers. They infect us even in our sleep. They set up websites in our dreams as we search for loopholes in their net. They say, you rich in a poor country, so you rich. You poor in a rich country, you're probably rich. You poor in a poor country, I still take your blood. It's like they want us to go down one by malarial one, taking action without heart, as if pests had any regard. I'm sorry, had no regard for what coin cannot buy. You can't take it away. You take invasion pathway or you take no salary at all. This is our human duty, come straight out the heart and the mind of the dead and the fallen leaves from ancestral here right up the interstellar. Take the beetle regenerator, who take out and put back equally into the soil of which we are all citizen. I mean, their balls of dung are more powerful than we will ever know, and they emerge fully formed from it. There's no world without animal. There's no world without animal. There's no world without animal. Never mind the income they pull in. I mean, honey, pollen, silk, shellac, wax, gold, diamond, data, retail, food, and crude. I mean, animal raised us inside and out. And what do? We took all that capital and spent it. Because our inner animal was hungry or angry. And now we're nothing but dishonorable organisms, most of the time standing on stolen property. And for our children, is there anything but bankruptcy? Pension, retirement, savings? No crime will save us now. No enterprise, no amulet. So sing and pray and take action with heart to survive hostile conditions. Be like a new scarab from old Egypt who can roll the sun across the sky every morning to stimulate the dead hearts back to life. Everyone, please raise your glass to life with me. If you don't have a glass, raise your fist. We're going to take a drink. Yeah, I like that sound. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So everyone, we're going to do on 3, we're going to say to life all together, okay? 1, 2, 3, to life! Yeah. Oh, thank you, water. I want to say thank you, not just to the water, but to all of you for being here, to the Western Front, Capilano Review, and to friends who are here, and Junie and Isabella, for your beautiful words, for your profound words. I have one last piece. It's a story. This is a story about the most visited place on earth. Do you know where that is? Guesses? Really? Not a one? It's like LA, New York, Paris. No? No, none? That's fine. You'd never guess anyway. So listen then, children, listen to the word. We are going to find the center point on Earth, where 0 latitude meets 0 longitude, null, Guinea, Ghana. In that place out on the water, there's a permanently moored soul buoy. Now that place does not exist, but computers think we live there. Every day with such intensity. Now it begins on the shores of the Corlay Lagoon where the Oda River splits in two, in the center of the city of Accra, Ghana, West Africa. A young man without arm or leg is folded into an imagination-powered bicycle. He rolled down Aboseo Kai Street from where Agbogbloshie used to be, that electronic waste scrapyard that holds all our old data recycled on tropical gray dust, the fresh rust, do nothing, say nothing every day with such intensity. Now the man moved along the western edge of Macola Market past a sister shop, an electric blue Ankara mermaid silhouette walking all grace and slippers with 10-pound of shea butter firewood on top the head like it nothing. But the source of all human beauty and hard drive every day with such intensity. Heat is in the marrow here. Local folk barely break a sweat. But the diasporic body is at the door of return of no return. We expel all the middle passage we got sweating through American cotton-picking clothes on a walk 4 degrees north of equator every day with such intensity. Now the sun could power all the machines we could ever throw at her, or devour them turned on, like a member of the family extended and familiar to whom we throw garbage without wanting to throw garbage every day with such intensity. Now, our brother head down to Jamestown, past the lighthouse, down the ramp into the Ga fishing village on the shores of the Gulf, where cousins stare and smile when they see a shoes and light skin come in, but they come running islands of color and joy on sand blackened from grilling fire and burnt out tire every day with such intensity. Now, our brother brought us here without arm or leg on his imagination-powered bicycle. We're now at the shoreline, at the edge, where the bright rainbow tamarind pod fishing boats lined up tight together with bows pointed up like cup hands holding our uncles, sitting quiet, mending piles of seafoam net and asking alms from a daughter returned every day with such intensity. Even a king up at the Rising Phoenix who shared his herb refused to believe that I'd been married 15 years and had no children. He said, in Africa, even if you do not have children, you say that you have children. Every day with such intensity. He said, oh child, walk easy. We love you and we're happy to see you. We are ancestors to each other. You and I. This land is yours. These people are yours. Just wear loud color when you're off continent so we can see you from here and know that you are alive and not lost Atlantic like so many before we missed you every day with such intensity. The whole African continent vibrate like a central nervous system CPU that code push you out to swim even into rough seas where equator meet prime meridian at 0 degree, Guinea, Ghana, out here on the soul, boy. Null, human data may go to die, but is resurrected in Africa next day, every day, with such intensity. Thank you very much, everyone.
taking a second to pick myself up off the floor. Thank you so much, Junie, Isabella, Tanya, for sharing your work with us, and to everyone here tonight for making space for these words. If you enjoyed tonight's reading, please mark your calendars for the next event in this series, which will be on Thursday, October 5th, where we look forward to welcoming out-of-town readers Sonnet Labe, Caché Arquès Mohammadi, and Clara Duplessis. Please stay tuned for the full event announcement in the coming weeks. So please feel free to hang around, grab a drink. Please do visit me and Jackie at the merch table and show your support by donating or buying some merchandise or some books. And we would love to chat with you, dear friends. Thanks again, and have a wonderful evening.